For over 4,500 years, they have stood in the desert, vast, silent, and defiant. The Great Pyramids of Egypt, stone mountains so precisely aligned, so impossibly engineered, that even today, they seem to whisper a single question through the sands of time. How were they built, without modern machines? Each block weighs several tons. There are over 2.3 million of them in the Great Pyramid alone, stacked with laser-like precision, forming a monument that has survived earthquakes, floods, and empires. No cranes, no steel, no computers, just human hands, desert stone, and determination. So how did ancient Egyptians achieve the impossible? Were they guided by extraordinary engineering? Or something beyond our understanding? Today, on the Mind Metrics, we're uncovering the truth behind one of humanity's greatest mysteries, the construction of the pyramids, the land of gods and stone. To understand how the pyramids were built, we must travel back 4,500 years to the reign of Pharaoh Khufu around 2560 BCE. Egypt was the world's most advanced civilization, ruled by divine kings and powered by tens of thousands of skilled workers. The Nile River flooded each year, leaving behind fertile soil that fed the nation, and during its dry season, when the fields lay empty, a workforce emerged. Farmers, masons, and craftsmen were recruited to build what the Egyptians called Akhet Khufu, the horizon of Khufu. This wasn't slavery. Recent discoveries show the workers were paid in food, beer, and housing, organized into teams, living in purpose-built villages near the construction site. Archaeologists even found bread ovens, butchered cattle bones, and graffiti where workers called themselves things like the drunkards of Menkaure. They weren't forced laborers, they were proud builders, constructing not just a tomb, but a stairway to eternity. The Quarrying of Giants. The story of pyramid construction begins long before the first stone was placed. The ancient Egyptians had to quarry and transport millions of limestone blocks, each weighing between 2 and 15 tons. The majority of the blocks came from nearby limestone quarries just across the Nile. Harder granite, used for the inner chambers, was brought from Aswan, nearly 500 miles to the south. So how did they move such massive stones? For centuries, people imagined slaves dragging them through the sand, but modern science has revealed a far more ingenious system. In 2014, researchers studying an ancient wall painting at the tomb of Jehutihotep noticed something extraordinary: a man pouring water in front of a sled carrying a giant statue. It turns out this wasn't symbolic, it was physics. When you pour water on sand, it binds the grains together, cutting friction by up to 50%. That simple trick made it possible to drag multi-ton blocks across the desert, a discovery that reveals how Egyptian engineers were centuries ahead of their time. They didn't fight the desert, they worked with it. The Nile Highway, a river of stone. But even with sleds, how do you move thousands of blocks from quarries miles away? The answer flows through Egypt's heart, the Nile River. The Egyptians built massive transport canals leading right up to the Giza Plateau. Archaeologists uncovered one such harbor beneath the sands, a network of waterways that allowed boats to deliver stone directly to the construction site. During the flood season, barges floated massive blocks downstream. When the waters receded, workers unloaded the stones and dragged them up to the site. It was an ancient assembly line, timed perfectly with the rhythm of the river. Every flood brought not just life to the fields, but the raw materials for eternity, the foundation of precision. Before a single block was laid, the site had to be perfectly level, and the precision they achieved still baffles engineers today. The Great Pyramid's base is only 2 centimeters out of level, over a span of 230 meters. That's flatter than the average modern football field. How did they do it without lasers or GPS? The secret was water. Egyptians dug shallow trenches and filled them with water, marking the surface at equal heights around the perimeter. It was one of the earliest known uses of hydraulic leveling, a technique so effective, it's still used today. Once the ground was leveled, they aligned the pyramid almost perfectly to true north, within 1/15 of a degree. Recent studies suggest they used the stars, specifically the simultaneous transit of 2 circumpolar stars, to achieve this stunning accuracy. They didn't just build with stone, they built with the heavens. The ramp theories, the riddle of raising stones. Now comes the most famous mystery. How did they lift millions of blocks to such towering heights? The Great Pyramid originally stood 146 meters tall, roughly a 50-story building. No cranes, no pulleys, no iron tools. So how was it done? Over the years, archaeologists have proposed several ramp theories, and each tells a part of the truth. 1. The straight ramp theory. A long, straight ramp leading from the desert floor up one side of the pyramid. This would have required more material than the pyramid itself, unlikely for such a massive structure. 2. The zigzag ramp theory. A ramp wrapping around the pyramid's face, allowing workers to drag stones in a spiral upward. It's more efficient, but still leaves questions about space and angle. 3. The internal ramp theory. Proposed by French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin, this theory suggests a hidden ramp built inside the pyramid itself, a spiral tunnel that allowed workers to pull stones upward as construction progressed. In 2005, scans of the pyramid revealed anomalies, voids that match this design. If true, it means the Egyptians built not just a monument, but a machine, a self-contained system for its own creation, a pyramid that built itself, the power of teamwork. However they lifted the stones, one thing is certain: it wasn't brute strength alone, it was organization. Hieroglyphs discovered on quarry blocks show the workers were divided into crews, each with its own name and insignia. Teams that competed, celebrated, and took pride in their craft. Some carved jokes and graffiti inside the pyramid itself. One team even called themselves the Drunkards of Menkar. These weren't slaves forced to labor. They were artisans, engineers, and dreamers guided by mathematics, astronomy, and devotion. The construction of the Great Pyramid wasn't a mystery of muscle. It was a triumph of management, the heart of a monument. Inside the Great Pyramid, narrow passageways lead to chambers aligned with astronomical precision. The King's Chamber is made from 50-ton granite blocks, hauled from hundreds of miles away. Above it sits a series of 5 relieving chambers, a brilliant design that distributes the immense weight of the stone above, preventing collapse. It's a feat so advanced that modern engineers use similar techniques in skyscraper design today. And when you stand inside that ancient room, in the silence surrounded by stone laid by hand before the birth of Rome, you realize you're standing inside a time capsule of human genius. The mystical theories, aliens, sound, and lost technology. Of course, no mystery this old escapes the realm of speculation. Some say the pyramids were built with lost technologies, levitation, sound waves, or advanced tools from a forgotten civilization. Others suggest help from extraterrestrials, arguing that such precision was impossible for ancient man. But these ideas, while fascinating, underestimate the one force that truly built the pyramids: human will. The Egyptians didn't need aliens. They had organization, mathematics, and belief. They aligned their monuments with the stars not because of advanced science, but because they believed the pharaoh's soul would ascend to the heavens. The pyramids weren't just tombs. They were resurrection machines, cosmic gateways meant to ensure the eternal life of a god. The eternal legacy. When the last stone was set and the golden capstone placed at its peak, the Great Pyramid became the tallest structure on Earth, and it stayed that way for nearly 4,000 years. It has survived earthquakes, looters, floods, and time itself. Why? Because it was built not just with stone, but with purpose. It was the product of a civilization that believed death was not the end, and that through creation, one could touch eternity. That belief gave them a power no machine could replicate: the will to achieve the impossible, the human blueprint. So, how were the pyramids built without modern machines? Not through magic, not through aliens, but through mastery of physics, mastery of teamwork, mastery of belief. They used the tools they had, wood, rope, water, sand, and turned them into instruments of eternity. And maybe that's the real secret. The pyramids remind us that the greatest machines ever built weren't made of metal. They were made of human minds. Thanks for watching the Mind Metrics. If this journey through the ancient world made you think, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. What do you believe built the pyramids? Ingenuity, or something beyond understanding? And remember, the past is never as primitive as it seems. Stay curious.